This week on the 77% Street Debate.
I was shot on my chest, the blood pierce came out from the back.
The protests were hijacked by some hoodlums, some criminals.
Somebody hijacked the protest. The protest was attacked.
So who attacked these protests?
The protest was attacked using government's own properties, government's own assets.
Hello and welcome back to the 77%. This week we are in Nigeria, more specifically Lagos, the city that gave us Fela Kuti, who, by the way, in 1977, in his title track for the album, Them Leave Tears, Sorrow and Blood, explained how the police officers were at that time brutalizing the citizens of Nigeria. Fast forward to 2020 and his words still resonated as young people gathered to protest what they said was ill treatment by the police officers. And so we're here to find out, why do African governments seem so threatened by protests held by the youth? Who better to answer this question for me than fellow Nigerians? And I'm going to start with Vi. And so I just want you to give us an overview of what happened in 2020, because not everybody has a clear idea.
So it basically began with a lot of discontent and unhappiness and rage against the Special Anti-Robbery Squad of the Nigerian police. It's been a long time coming, so there was a lot of pent-up resentment, and youth just felt like, you know what, enough is enough. Our voices are not heard, our voices are not taken seriously, and like that, almost as if they were coordinated, protests were happening in major cities in the southern parts of the country especially.
Okay, let's hear from Sefa, because I understand you were at the protests as well.
Oh, yes.
And obviously we wouldn't be talking about these protests if they hadn't ended in, unfortunately, death. So how did it come to be that something that started organically ended in bloodshed?
I think one of the selling points, I'll call it that, of the EndSARS protest was that there was no coordinated leadership. Right, the protests were organic, and people just appointed themselves to, coordinate, collect, and distribute resources. There was a lot of heavy politicizing, like in the FCT, where some of the boys who disrupted the protest testified that they were given 500 naira or so. You could easily buy street power.
Yeah.
By anyone.
Okay, let me hear from Matthew, aka Precious Stone, who was not only at the protest, but unfortunately actually ended up being shot. So perhaps start by telling us what took you to the protest. Why did you feel that it was so important for your voice to be heard that day?
Many times SARS has stopped me, and why do you do your hair like this? I said, I'm not Yahoo boy, because they believe in Nigeria where you live fine, or where you think your hair, you bad boy, or you Yahoo boy. I say, I'm not one of them. So I always show them, and after then they will still expect me to give them money. But when I heard it that people in the youth of Nigeria have woke up that let's stop this SARS, the killing innocent citizens of this country, so I need to join the protest peacefully.
Can you explain to me how you felt when you got there? What was the energy like? How did you feel in the early hours?
The atmosphere was so lovely. I never believed that Nigeria youth could so peacefully with flag, Nigeria flag. At least we are citizens. We're entitled to come out to speak up what is not good about our country, about our nation.
All right, peaceful, lovely energy was vibrant. Okay, let me come to Officer Hudeyin here, because obviously the police officers actually were at the receiving end during these protests, being accused of not just brutalizing young people and harassing them. Is this true, would you say, in your estimation?
Yes, actually we have certain reports of police officers being excessive in their use of force, but still it didn't mean that the entire police force was brutal or was insensitive to the plight of the youth. And these were things we're looking into. We have a department on the force that looks into these complaints. But I guess people have had enough, or they felt we're not moving fast enough.
Okay, I want to hear from Olamide, because I see that your hairstyle is dreadlocked, which I understand in this country can be a way for people to be targeted. Have you experienced some of the things that P-Tone was saying?
Yes, because I've been harassed by SARS officials lots of time. They won't threaten that they can shoot me, nothing will happen. Immediately, I would just say, I'll pick up my phone, I'll video you, anything that you do, I will record you. So when I now heard of that, the EndSARS protest, this is something that's what made me to join, basically. Because I don't know the day I will go outside that I will get shot. Because most of the time, because after the EndSARS protest, I can say that's reduced. It has been
The harassment.
The harassment has reduced.
Okay.
I can say that's a gain, a plus mark for the protest. Because it has been so long, the police has harassed me because of my hairstyle. But before the protest, whenever I go out, I'm going for an occasion, they can delay me. They will delay me. They'll say I should enter their car. I'll give them. They don't have the right to search my phone, but I will still gladly give them my phone because I'm not a Yahoo boy. The first thing they'll look at you as an internet fraudster. They don't want to know what you are doing first of all. So such a unit has to stop. That was what made me to join the protest.
Okay. Now, I should mention to our viewers that, of course, SARS as a squad was later disbanded, although young people here say that it was quickly replaced with a force that was very similar to that. But coming back to you, Officer Hunde and JJ, I know you're here. I'm going to come back to you. I heard reports while preparing for this that people would even have their telephones checked to have police officers look through their bank account balance and force them to withdraw money. Is this true? Yeah, I mean, how does it get to that point?
Okay, yeah, it's very wrong for any police officer to check anybody's phone, bank account, and we appreciate those people who just don't complain and just maybe maybe rant on Twitter. Pardon my language, rant on Twitter, but people actually step forward to say, oh, these police officers did this. We actually want to get such reports, and when we get them, we bring in these officers and make them face some disciplinary action. But it's actually wrong. And if I may say this, I'm not trying to defend this bad behavior. It's not a defense. But, you know, statistically, you see that most times certain crimes are committed by certain age group, and they often, not always, but they often have this look, this tattoo, and this.
I mean, yeah, that's profiling.
That's profiling, yes. But for a police officer.
So what are we saying? Nobody in Nigeria should wear dreadlocks?
Like I said from the beginning of this is not a defense. But as a police officer, I remember that the last 10 people that confessed to this particular crime actually have certain indices.
Physical characteristics.
Maybe not physical, but indices. You would not blame me if I see somebody with those indices, and the first thing that comes to my mind is, oh, the last 10 people are arrested.
Okay, let me come to JJ because he's laughing at your comment. I'm not sure if it's because he thinks it's funny. Share your thoughts, JJ.
So I was laughing because it was fitting perfectly into the behavioral spectrum of bias. It was literally admitting bias as a police officer. No fault of his, he's human. But so the next level as a police officer and as an institution is to first of all admit that bias, that they are biased towards going for people like Olamide and beating them up and doing all of those things. And also to understand the collective responsibility of everyone.
Okay.
Which then means that if I'm moving around, I should have my ID card to make it easier to identify myself, for that, make it easier for that officer to do their job well. And as long as every young Nigerian does not feel safe, not because of armed robbers, but because of their own police when they go out at night or when they are dressed a certain way, then we've not done enough. People continue to get brutalized. We see it every day on social media. People continue to get bullied. People continue getting taken to the ATM to get to withdraw money. Those things need to change. But what also has changed is that the government now knows that even though these people are not out there on the street, they can go on the street when necessary. They have a voice.
Let me come back to Safa here because, yes, the government knows that now young people can mobilize, they can organize themselves, but they've also come up with innovative ways to suppress that democratic space. I mean, are we moving one step forward, two steps back?
The government can do everything possible to maintain its power, like the Twitter ban, for example. But I think that one of the major gains of protests in generally and EndSARS in particular is the effect it has on the people. The people know that they can talk. The people know that they can demand. And the government knows that the people can demand. Protest is a signal. It's an indication of a dysfunctional system. And once people start to protest, the government knows that we're doing something wrong and the citizen has noticed it and the citizen is complaining. what happens next.
Okay. You say that things could be moving in the right direction because the government knows that people can talk. But PT, I want to hear from you because I know you might be of a different opinion. You were telling me earlier that you feel fearful. You know, despite the fact that the government admitted its fault and said we shouldn't have shot you and you were given compensation, you still don't feel safe.
There's no compensation, there's nothing. Since there, we went to the panel and we won everything. There's nothing has happened. Nothing has happened, I'm telling you here. So if is there anybody that is saying that they've given anybody compensation, nothing has happened. I was shot on my chest, the blood pierce came out from the back. Yeah, so I know the kind of pain since that till now. I'm still feeling the pain because I have fracture on my 7th rib. So I need to go for scan. I can't avoid it because since then, no job anymore. And thank God for what JJ said. He's talking about ID card. ID card in Nigeria, I need to be frank, is useless.
How so?
It's useless because many times you go out with ID card. When they arrest us, when you bring it out, they will just collect it and throw it away. I'm still scared.
What are you scared of?
I'm scared of my life because still they are still angry. Government are still angry. Police are still angry because we can come out, challenge them in the court of law. I was shot with this clothes, so the pictures, it was so crazy. And since then, nobody has helped me. Thank God for somebody like Sarah Ibrahim, because Sarah Ibrahim, I don't know the name I'm going to give her, but you give her. I gave her kudos. I don't know. I can use any language.
Yeah.
It was so lovely.
Yeah.
She has the courage, being a lady, so vibrant, so caring, she's so kind.
Right. So, by the way, I should mention, oh, there she is. We were just talking about you. Sarah has just joined us. That's a lady that Matthew was speaking so generously about. She unfortunately was late because of Lagos traffic, but we understand and welcome. So we were just recapping what happened during the protests. And I sort of asked what, in the long term and in the short term, what was achieved. We've heard from Matthew is that he still feels fearful, unfortunately, but he's bolstered because of people like you. So what would you say keeps you so brave and encouraging people like Matthew?
The youth of Nigeria are very brave. They're extremely brave. So the thing is, the protest happened, yeah, but have we actually gotten what we needed? We've gotten some part of it, but we still need more. And we are able, and we are proud that we're able to get about 200 families. We're able to get them justice.
Did they get justice? I mean, were the people who are behind those shootings arrested, for example?
If you want to start saying that you need these people to get arrested, it has to be a different ball game. We're in a country whereby our judicial system is not respected. It is not respected by the politicians. It is not respected by those who actually made the judicial system to stand. The panels that were actually set up, I've already said, these people need to face jail terms.
Officer, I want to come back to you because PT said very passionately that police officers are still angry because the youth dared to challenge the authority. They dared to stand up against you. Is this how you're feeling, honestly?
I don't agree with him that police officers are angry because of EndSARS. We know that the youth that started this protest were not violent. We acknowledge that. So the protests were hijacked by some hoodlums, some criminals.
Hijacked or attacked? I think you should use the right. Use the right word. Okay. The protests were never hijacked. Nobody hijacked the protest. The protest was attacked.
So who attacked these protests?
The protest was attacked using government's own properties, government's own assets, government's own vehicles. So if you want to start asking questions, or if you want to start
are you suggesting, Sarah, that the people, the young hoodlums, as the officer has called them here, who infiltrated the protest was sent by the government? This is a very serious claim.
I am not suggesting. I am saying.
You're saying it.
On the night of the Lekki massacre, we were able to get about 21 people with the same shapes of cutlass, like this machete, they had the same tags on it. So it was like they were given to them. So we caught about 21 of these people in Lekki Phase 1. We took them. I was there. I took them. I still have. All the videos were played at the panel. That was actually what made the panel to reach their decision. We took these people to the police, and guess what? We're told that they are not their problem.
All right, let's come back to the officer. Yeah, I think
yes.
it's important that you're able to respond.
We all look at the EndSARS protest, but everybody turns a blind eye to the fact that many police stations were attacked. Many police stations were burnt down. I don't know if you are aware that many police officers were killed, many police officers were beheaded, and many police officers were roasted and eaten. These are facts. And many rifles were carted away, and we lost vehicles, human resources, material resources. So it was, and I will tell you that when this protest started and we checked what they were fighting for, many of us were happy because our welfare was part of it.
Mm-hmm.
So somewhat behind the scene, we were giving them this nod, like, go ahead, we're going to benefit from it.
Okay, so how did it come to be that then people who are armed by the government are opening fire on their own citizens who are unarmed?
I'm going to ask you if that statement is a statement of fact.
Well, you tell me, who else has firearms in this country who are police?
Well, every day, yesterday, day before yesterday, we recover firearms from hoodlums.
Okay.
So only the police alone.
All right, let's steer away from there for a second. I want to come back to you, Vi, because earlier Sefa said something important, that protests are a symptom of a dysfunctional society. And I'm curious if, because we've understood that SARS was just sort of the proverbial straw that broke the camel's back. But the underlying issues of poverty, of unemployment are still there. So what happens now?
Structural issues will remain: the poverty, the unemployment, inflation, exchange rate imbalances, insecurity. And these have to be seen within the backdrop of the authoritarian nature of Nigerian culture, really.
Can you explain that?
So oftentimes young people are told to keep quiet. What do you know? Why should you talk when your elder is talking? And other people much more intelligent than me have said Nigeria has the characteristics of a gerontocracy, where leadership is kept within the hands of old men. So these are people who are making decisions for the country, for young people that they have no idea about.
I want to hear from Olamide here. Why keep electing these old men who don't have any care for you? Why elect them?
They have rigged the system. They've planted structures, but this time around it's going to be a different game. They'll just sit down in the back room door. They'll just sit down. You're the next person that is going. You're the next person that is going. Someone will say this is my birthright. I have to get there. But this time around, we'll show them they are messing with the wrong generation.
Okay, JJ, let's hear from you.
It's good to hope that, hope is free. It's good to hope that there's going to be a different game. There were elections immediately after EndSARS, and the turnout was one of the lowest ever in the history of the country.
Does that surprise you, though?
It doesn't. And we have to say things the way they are right now. There's nothing to say that the voting dynamics of Nigeria, in terms of voter turnout, in terms of the kind of people that will vote and all the appurtenances of voting, will change with the elections that are coming in less than a year.
Yeah. All right. So I guess now I have a critical question, which is why protest in the first place? Because there'll always be problems and there'll always be dysfunction in governments. So why take the risk, especially if it leads to loss of life? Seth, I'd like to hear from you first.
For the common man on the street, what do you expect them to do?
Yeah.
To march to Aso Rock? Or to do what? That is the way that they know how to register their displeasure. And it's legitimate in the sense that every citizen has a right to expression. So I think protests are effective in their own way.
Yeah, and we have seen them be very, very effective in other parts of Africa, from Egypt to my very own country of Kenya. And I'm wondering from you, PT, would you ever participate in a protest again, given what happened to you?
Again and again and again and again.
Because
coconutted know they tire. We know that by that we can do it. Sincerely speaking, we know that our government are crazy, so we too we need to be crazy. So we need to be crazy. By doing that also, let's also do the necessity, getting our voter card, vote, do all those things. It's not by shouting, it's not by, okay, look at it.
Yeah.
Look at it, we're feeling pains, but glory be to God, we exist. We move.
Right.
But can we get justice? The whole world knew the truth.
So, sure.
I think this is one of the gains.
Yeah.
Protest, activism, right? It could be that before the protest, he was just chilling, doing his thing. But participating in the protest, it births a spirit of accountability. You start to... A lot of the activists that we have now were birthed on the protest ground. They cannot be too much, right? They hold the government to account. They monitor, they report governance processes. So I think that this is one of the major gains of a protest, the birthing of an activism or activist conscious spirit in citizens.
Okay. Now, earlier we spoke about responsibility, and I want to come back to you, Officer Hundeyin, because looking to the future, in the examples that I gave of Egypt, and now I'm thinking about Sudan, South Africa, Zimbabwe, so often these protests also end up in bloodshed. What can we do so that the next time young Nigerians, which will inevitably happen, come together to protest something, they're not met by bullets?
Well, endsars was a learning process for everyone, for the youth, for the security agencies, and particularly the police. So if a protest is to happen again, most often we tell people that if you want to protest, please inform the security agencies. If we know you are going to protest, we have to put certain measures in place to make sure it's not hijacked. The last time I said hijacked, everybody attacked me. Okay, attack. Okay, so that we have to put measures in place to make sure that there is no attack. And going forward, like you said, inevitably, protest is going to happen again. But we have learnt, we hope that it won't become bloody next time.
Okay, Sarah, I want to hear from you. Solutions going forward, because like I said, inevitable protests will happen.
Yeah, every single person in Nigeria wants a better Nigeria. People are always still going to protest. It's one thing about being in government, it's one thing about being in a country. Is how are you going to you don't treat people like they're animals. So the government needs to learn how to talk to the citizens, because citizens are the power. The government needs to understand that you need to constantly talk to these people. You need to constantly talk to people so that you can know what their grievances are and how to meet them in the middle.
Okay. I'd like to hear from you, Olamide. In the future, what do you think young people need to do to make the conversation easier between government and yourselves, police officers and yourselves?
The way we want to make happen that youths should also try to get into power. We need to be in the Senate House, we need to be in the House of Rep, we need to be in that seat, that table where they're also discussing, where they're also planning for our futures. We cannot just be sitting down backyard and just be shouting and be ranting online and just for protests. We need to get involved in politics in Nigeria.
Yeah.
Enough is enough. We cannot continue like this. That's
Okay.
just
JJ, I started by quoting Fela Kuti, the great master of music, and the things that he was singing about in his album of 1977 are still very much resonating today. How do we stop that cycle?
First of all, is to say that the quest for a better society is a never-ending one, and that's not unique to Nigeria. It's universal. Democracies like the Americas, that's as old as 250 years old and over, they continue to battle for this freedom. So it's not a question of how do we stop them, it's a question of how do we make lives better every year. And then for government to understand that your people are not your enemies, when they go out there to protest, it's because they are asking for better of you, which essentially actually helps you because you swore to uphold the Constitution.
Vi, we started with you. Let's conclude with you. What do you see for the future of this country post-EndSARS protests?
I think understanding that we form as youth a critical mass that can really move this needle forward is something that we need to take very seriously. I mean, we form like 60% of Nigeria. The best we could do is get our PVCs. And, you know, again, referencing what JJ said about the difficulty in seeing change, there's a direct relationship between how much change you want to see and how much effort and work you're willing to put in. The more work you put in, the better change you will see.
All right. Well, that's a fantastic place to wrap up this debate. The sun is going down. It's so beautiful here. And I actually feel really good in my heart, which so rarely happens at the end of debates. But that's because the young people here, I asked, are protests threatening to governments? Perhaps. But what I've heard today resoundingly is that the youth, they no go tire. Thank you for watching.